There we go. How's it going so far?
Pretty good. I was doing some writing this morning, just pausing to jump in here. And I did sneak out and play some more disc golf yesterday, despite the mud.
Have you guys been getting like weird freak rainstorms?
Yeah, night before last, it was just massive lightning, thunder till 3 in the morning, kind of woke me up. And probably, I don't know, I didn't really pay attention, but it probably rained for 10 hours. It was just crazy.
Wow. We only
I
had
mean, off and
about
on.
maybe 2 hours, but it was coming down so incredibly hard that at first I thought a truck was driving by my house, and then I go outside and the lightning hits, and when the thunder happened, like the wall shook. I was like, okay, so
Yeah,
here we
same
go.
here. I felt like the vibrations, it kind of went through me. It was pretty, must have been close.
But
This morning, though, there were a bunch of, I mean, not this morning, last night, there were a bunch of fireflies out from all the
oh, really?
rain thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
We yeah, it went from like 40s to 60 really quick, and then all of a sudden it got like 60% humidity in one day.
Oh, wow.
And we spend our summers, it can get so moist that when you walk outside, it feels like you're swimming.
Yeah. Yeah, humidity's the worst. Well, it's been, I think yesterday it got up to, I don't know, 80, but it was 75 most of the day I was out, most of the time I was out.
Sorry, I'm running numbers for people on the sale.
No, you're good.
Had on the website.
Yeah, I saw that. Looked like you got some good traffic on the sale. That's good.
Yeah, what I think I'm happy about, like, don't get me wrong, like as far as sales, like I thought it was really low. I would have loved to see double that number.
Right.
But for how few people were in it, what I really liked was people went to the website and then they were buying books not on sale.
Yeah.
So they were sneaking around looking at authors. So that part I really liked.
Good. Yeah, I assume y'all are, doing analytics on the site so you can see the traffic bump and that sort of thing.
And as of right now, as of yesterday, actually, the site this month has been the most traffic that the website's had since 2018 when it first kind of started up.
Nice.
So we've already done this year about 1,000 more visitors than all of last year.
Wow.
So our numbers, if all's going according to plan, should triple last year.
Yeah.
And I want the year after that to triple, and then we're at numbers that I'm happy with.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like also bots, on Amazon, just going to keep growing because you've got that network effect of, people hopping on there and spreading it a little bit at a time.
And we started showing up so like I go in every day and I look at anyone who's linked to the site, where is the traffic coming from? Because I'm trying to figure out, reviewers, or like I would love to build up that network. And what I noticed this last couple months are people are making lists of genre websites. So like, here's the best website to find all your cyberpunk needs. Here's your best website for your superhero needs. And we've been getting listed quite a bit. So,
well, it's got to be the definitive superhero fiction site. I mean, I don't actually know of any others that specialize.
The only one, there's two.
Aside from movies and stuff.
Superhero Nation, which was actually just a dude who reviewed books, and he had hundreds of books that he had read. But he stopped doing that 2 years ago, and then There's one other superhero universe or something, and they only have like maybe 10 books. It almost looks like maybe it's a publisher put it together.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of anyone on it. So, yeah, we're constantly, more. I would just want more.
Right. I might do a blog post on my site. I mean, I don't get tons of traffic, but it's been around for a while, and I'm trying to build up content. So, yeah, I'll do that. And I keep throwing it out on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that.
It basically, I just want superhero authors to make bank. I don't care, how they do it. Just Amazon is not a reliable tool for us anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just started running my AMS ads yesterday, and I am paying $1 per click in the superhero category.
Wow.
And none of the people in the top 100 are superheroes. So
yeah,
I'm paying to be amongst urban fantasy.
Right.
So,
well, urban fantasy is huge, and until Amazon changes the rules, they're not super clear on keywords that stick you in categories, and sometimes it's not intentional. I think among authors,
no,
you put all these keywords out, and if you don't consult those charts that show where that's going to populate you in the categories, then maybe you don't know you're going into the superhero spot.
I rank pretty high on the lesbian chart. There is absolutely nothing on any of my keywords, except I do have one ad that runs for LGBT stuff, and I think just by default it's like, oh, you must be a lesbian book too.
Could be the ad. It could be. I mean, I haven't really scoured your stuff. I've looked at it, but I haven't really studied. It could be that you triggered some also bots, and Amazon's paying attention to that.
And I think I got listed in an ad years ago that was like LGBT in its entirety. So I'm sure some of my also bots are easily triggered by a simple ad.
Right.
But I can spend $5 and be in the top 3 there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's the thing with the categories. I had some other non-superhero books, and I've got one that's like, it's fantasy, but it's not really Arthurian, but it's not really Asian, it's not really Norse mythology. I could just say fantasy, but then I'm competing with Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and that sort of stuff. So you kind of have to niche down for visibility.
I just wish that people, like, I'm willing to open up the what is superhero conversation. But when it's, die hard paranormal romance,
right,
you're just trying to snag a number one. Which, I mean, everyone's trying to claw their way to the top. So
right,
as angry as I can be, I can't really blame them.
Yeah. Speaking of what is superhero, I listened to the podcast episode that you and Trish did, where you went through like Hunger Games and different ones, and are there 2 Avengers from any team that could conceivably exist in that universe? That was entertaining.
We had to come up with something because people were submitting books to the website, and I was like, I don't know if this is.
You can't just summarily say no, I reject that.
Yeah.
At least it has sort of a criteria, like there's some logic into the assessment.
And of course, I'm a diehard Marvel fan, so it was like, we'll create the Avengers test.
Right. Well, and I mean, you went through the different Avengers eras and West Coast. I mean, there's a huge cast there. So if you can't make that work, then you got a problem.
I tried really hard to get Buffy on the superhero list, but it was a struggle.
I actually think Buffy, in my head, I was arguing the case for Buffy when I was listening, because I watched the whole, every Buffy. And, you got the military guy with the enhancement there. I mean, that's Captain America. Yeah, the shield's weird. But, and then if you're going to say that, then, why can't you have Hawkeye?
So Hawkeye
He's a vigilante. He's got a bow. I could see a Hawkeye character running around like he's part of some, government team, and he sort of crosses paths with Buffy, and he doesn't understand the paranormal and she does, and he's trying to figure it out from his perspective.
It was the reliance on Riley for Captain America that was the so she I think is going to be the eternal debate. Like, I feel like that's an entire panel unto itself.
Right. I mean, you could ask Joss Whedon,
Maybe I'll just tweet him.
Because I mean, he's worked on both, so
I do feel that it's never going to be a black and white conversation. Like the Hunger Games was the one that I actually thought she might, like, in no way in my mind does she fall under superhero, but I thought by our criteria she would sneak in. And
see, I don't think she's any stronger than Buffy,
but
in terms of criteria,
Hawkeye very much fits in that universe,
right?
And based on their science, it could have something like a super serum, but it doesn't explain it. Like, she would have had to go in that direction,
right?
And if she had, then I couldn't argue it, because Hawkeye lets everyone into this.
Yeah, I know. It's just a guy that's skilled with tech. So, yeah.
So I need. Are you writing today?
Yeah, I was actually writing just before this. Working out some superhero gift shop items for the story.
I banged out 5,000 words yesterday. I was so happy with myself.
Very nice.
When quarantine first started, I was getting like 4,000, 5,000, 4,000. And then it's kind of twittered down to 2,000 seems to be my happy number. Yeah. But I just need this story done. I want another book one.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday I got, it looks like, this is so unofficial right now, but it looks like I'm going to be in Kevin J. Anderson's story bundle collection.
Right.
Which, like, he had messaged and he was like, sorry, we're kind of going in this. He got so many applications, he had to really narrow it down. And
right.
So I just kept talking to him, and come to find out he wrote comics. And I don't really know who Kevin J. Anderson is. I just know he's a big deal because of his name.
Oh, he's done everything. He's bigger than he lets on.
Well,
he was a Hollywood story doctor for a long time.
His Wikipedia page made me so intimidated. So I'm glad I didn't know ahead of time.
I read his book on $1 Million Outlaw. No, wait, I'm thinking of David Farland. Yeah. Well, anyway, he's done everything. So
he's worked with Frank Herbert on the Dune series, and now he works with the Trust, writing the Dune books. And there's comic book deals and TV deals and all this stuff flying around. And he's worked on Avengers and Starjammers and Batman and Superman. And I was like, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? And so someone screwed up and they can't take their book out of KDP. And he was like, are you still interested? And I was like, oh, hells yes. Like, I'll cut someone to get in here.
Right.
So
that could be a really nice boost for your catalog.
Because I'll say right now, like, my sales are just sucking. This has been my best month this year. And when I say best, I'm talking I might be able to pay my cable bill.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, I was paying bills with my books, and you know, it was a part of my income. And right now, like every time I go to look at reader links, I'm like, oh great, a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, I'm kind of in grind mode right now and build back up. You know, I made the mistake of I put out some books that, you know, I had like a book that made almost 20 grand, and then I waited a year to do the sequel.
Oh,
yeah. And the second one actually did like half that, almost, not quite. And then I waited a year to do the third book. So I was just been a fool for the last few years. I mean, I was doing other stuff. I was like putting out books that I committed to that weren't going to sell like that.
yeah.
But, you know, now I'm trying to get back on track, wrap up some series, start some new ones like the superhero one, which is admittedly kind of a fun project. And, you know, we'll see what happens. But I'm also kind of going back to that same audience that sold well earlier, and just really be consistent on putting those out, like, you know, a couple months apart.
Yeah, once I had my first BookBub back when I was with my publisher, it started like a landslide of my read through went up. All my books were steadily elevated. And even 6 months afterwards, I wasn't making, you know, BookBub money, but I was, you know, I was able to go to my accountant and say, that's why I'm doing this.
Right.
And then I got my rights back, and just the plan did not come out the way it should have. So I have the book one that I can promote. I have the prequel I can promote. I now have the box set. Now I'm working on this new series in the same universe. And then Trish and I have been talking. We're actually going to try doing a romance series. Superhero romance is a big deal right now. And it's
I noticed that's the talk later today at 5 Central.
I have to admit, like, I am so more excited for that than anything else, because I'm going to be there scribbling notes. Because I could write anything. You want cyberpunk? Sure. I could find a story I enjoy. Fantasy? I could find a story I enjoy. I don't care what I'm writing. I enjoy the act of writing.
Right.
So it's my first time going, okay, I need money. So let's go where the money is.
Yeah. Well, you know, I won't name any names, but there's some author friends that are local, and we hang out at least once a week, usually more. And we're all at different stages in our career. Some people ahead of me money-wise, some people behind. But none of us have written romance or anything like that. It's all a bunch of guys. And one guy is he's written everything, and he's been writing the longest out of all of us, and he's really talented, but he's never really put himself in the right, you know, way of targeting the audience. He writes what he wants to write, and they're great books, but he's not very good on the marketing side. And he's finally, he's been reading up on all the big romance authors, and he's actually going to give that a go. Just, you know, because of story, because he loves story. And he's like, well, if I read, you know, if I study the people who are doing really well, and I understand the tropes and the expectations, I'm going to give it a shot.
And I wrote a short story for an anthology, and ultimately that kind of fell apart. And then I was looking at the story, and I was like, you know what? I really like this story for its own, and I could see how I could turn this into an ongoing romance series. And am I going to write just romance? No, but it's a fun addition into my universe, and I'll create like a new pen name, like J Flag or something.
Right.
And you know, I have no problem with some superpowered bare-chested people on my cover. Sure. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah, the genre hopping thing is something I knew I was not making the wise decision, but you know, I'm using my same name for writing, you know, superhero, fantasy of different kinds, sci-fi adventure. But when I do thrillers later this year, it's going to be a slightly different name, just to keep them separate.
I'll be curious to hear how it goes. Do you have a lot of series in the same universe, or do you?
No. Okay. I've got Jake Mudd Adventures, which are sci-fi adventure, kind of pulp era inspired. And there's a series for that. And then I have standalones, same character before he gets his crew.
Okay.
So those are in the same universe. And I have plans for another series with a totally different MC in that same universe. So I'm kind of in the fledgling stages of making that into a universe. With content, and I'm building a subsite, and I'm going to put out some more books. But other than that, I've got that series and those standalones. I've got another fantasy trilogy that I just wrapped up. It's a spicy fantasy trilogy. That's by itself. I got another one in the same genre, but it's completely unrelated.
Okay.
And I don't have a bunch of series in the same universe, which is the smart move. I should have done that. But I like writing when I like writing.
So I went to the Somewhere Book Show Summit 2 years ago. It was the first one. And I was like, oh, it's a reason to go to Chicago. Let's do this. It's good people. I know some of them. It'll be fun. And Chris Fox got up and he was talking. He's like, you all know me from my marketing books, but I'm not going to talk about that. And he started talking about flagship series, and I was writing my superhero universe. I had my 4-book story and possibly a couple spin-off novellas, and he was like, if you enjoy your series, stay there. He goes, everything can feed back into one another, and you just create all these little loops, and a character might pop into another series for a quick hello, and then in that way, your fans are jumping back and forth. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I would write superheroes until the day I die, because superheroes aren't a genre. Like, there's nothing limiting about it. You can write.
Right. Well, look at the way they do the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
They themselves have said, hey, this is a heist movie. Or this is a different genres basically. I don't know if you ever listened to the Writing Excuses podcast, Brandon.
I just bookmarked it.
Okay, yeah, it's really good. Some episodes are better than others, but they did a whole year of episodes that was elemental subgenres, and they were basically looking at how you can thread, a heist or a romance or whatever inside the other story, which we know, but it's just kind of an interesting thing to think about. And so you're right, with superheroes, it can be any kind of story.
And the one I'm working on now is very urban fantasy-ish. There's, a young woman, she's psychic, she's coming into her own power. There's a secret society. Urban fantasy tropes all over the place. And I realize, there's a romance in there, which is, very urban fantasy, but I didn't play it up as a will they, won't they enough. So on my edit, I have to go through and, make the characters more lovable and a little more relationship, a little more steam. And then, this book is actually written to market, which is, I think, the first time I've paid attention, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, that's been, a new experience, but still technically superhero, kind of.
Yeah. So are you going to make any effort to tie those together worldwise in terms of this is the same universe, but it's a totally different part of the world or a different timeline or whatever?
So what happens in the first book of my superhero series, the reason my superhero team comes together is because a psychic sent out letters to influence the future, and they all, through events, wind up together. But she dies in the first chapter. She's the inciting incident of the story, but she doesn't make it past the first chapter. Well, people were so mad that I killed her.
Because they liked her. Was it the first major character you introduced?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, well, yeah, that's like they imprinted already, you
and
know?
she is based on my great grandmother. Like, she has her mannerisms. Like, she's the lovable little old lady
Hmm.
who tries to assassinate the president. And the
Talking about stories for anybody listening.
yeah. And then, in case the FBI is watching, this is all
Hey, you got to be careful. You know, there are certain keywords you can't use.
so the I'm writing her story as a young child or as a 20 something,
Yeah,
and kind of shows because she wound up being the aide to the president. So who was she when she was 20? Who was she when she was 30?
right.
Um, so her story directly ties in. And then I think the next series that I'm going to write is the sequel action adventure story, which is going to be much more heavy sci-fi.
Yeah.
Um, so some of the same character, all there will always be crossover characters.
Mhm.
Is my goal if I can make it
Yeah.
happen.
Well, with what I have out already, I don't think there's a way to cross them over. But I know my plan all along for when I'm going to do the thrillers later this year is one character, one series, 20 books long if it can work. Is just stay completely in that lane, in that genre.
You could Dark Tower all your books together.
Right.
Just this random non-related thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have one where a guy gets magically portaled from Earth to another world, so that kind of opens possibilities.
I just no rhyme or reason, just want to
Yeah.
do it.
Right.
Um,
I'm
okay, so
actually, or are we about to write? Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah,
I have
we're
to
on
run
right time.
downstairs really quick during the sprint.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll get some writing in. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, see you in a few.
Okay.
And Franklin.
I finally made it.
I feel like we have the various stages of beard happening.
Yes.
There we
Over
go.
this way, and you need to move that way, and then it'll be. At least that's how I'm seeing it. Are you guys in the middle on your screen?
Oh.
Are you trying to reorder us?
Yeah, see if we could reorganize it.
It's whoever joins, right? Left, middle, right, based on order. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll try to coordinate better next time.
And it's annoying because the host is always in the left. They're releasing an update soon where I can move myself around, but
Yeah.
First world problems.
Right.
Let's see what I got for words. I had to research Hell's Kitchen really quick.
Oh, really? I like the Daredevil show. That was good.
Yeah, well, and I feel like I'm pulling a little too much from the Daredevil show.
Oh, yeah. That was the same guy. You probably know this. It was the same guy from Stardust. The movie made out of the Neil Gaiman novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the same main character. He was just kind of a young whippersnapper in Stardust, and he got a little beefier and older for Daredevil.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah. Kind of weird when you think about it.
Who was Kingpin? D'Onofrio?
Oh, I don't know the name of the actor. He is so good, though. And that car door slamming scene. The first time he showed, okay, they're not holding back on this,
And the scene where he's staring at the wall at the first time it happens, you're like, this is weird, and yet I can't stop looking.
Right.
And as it explains it, you're like, yep, I'm along for this ride. I actually, when he lost, I was a little mad. I was rooting for him over Daredevil.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that he can, like you say, the staring scene, he can convey a lot of intensity where not much is actually going on. It's just, he's like, I don't know, emoting it or something.
That was what I didn't like about the third season. It was still great, but he was much more active and you weren't in his head as much.
Right. Which makes him seem less powerful, and less intimidating. Because it's that reserved capacity that you just, you're scared that it's going to come out.
Yes.
But when he's more active, then,
Derek's tailing along with us today. Charlie Cox come back to Daredevil in a Spider-Man MCU movie. Which,
I just heard about this yesterday, and then I heard that it was shot down.
No.
But that is rumor stuff, so I don't know for sure.
Everything's rumor right now.
Especially really announced Spider-Man.
Yeah, Comic Book Vine is notorious for just saying, well, we heard.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they don't back up anything with showrunner statements or producers.
No, it's all like our secret sources.
And yet
our person
really
who works on these shows that doesn't sign an NDA and isn't afraid of losing their job.
Yeah.
I want
doesn't stop
of just leaking
Spider-Man.
I want to be paid to subtly leak, be like, oh, while getting coffee with someone, be like, did you hear?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing because when you look at the actors and some of them talk about the security around their roles, and it's like they're handed 2 pages of just their dialogue, nobody else's dialogue. And you're like, okay, he gives you notes on intensity or whatever, and then memorize it. And then how can you piece anything together from that?
Well, and then some of them get filmed out of order, or they'll film multiple endings. So things get do you remember when The Matrix came out?
Oh yeah.
So, but social media wasn't really a thing, and it was just the ad of the green falling and what is the Matrix?
Yeah, I used to have that screensaver.
Yeah, I mean, every geek had
Everybody did, right? Yeah.
And so there's a certain amount of social media spoils that, because that was still to this day, I think, the best promotion of a movie ever.
That's true, but then you look at something like Willow. I don't know if you guys remember Willow with Val Kilmer. The early teaser trailer you thought it was some amazing sci-fi movie, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it was a good movie. When at the time I thought it was great. I was young. I saw it like 6 times at the theater, but a lot of people, my brother included, were really annoyed because he was expecting this amazing sci-fi movie based on the teaser trailers.
So
Social would have helped a little bit there.
Yeah.
That they are going to turn Willow into a series.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Which I don't know if it's actually going to be Willow or just set in the world, but
right.
It was interesting enough. I'd be down for watching a little more.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to get Val Kilmer in it now, but unless he's playing Mark Twain or something. That's what he's into now.
The show that I am so excited about, and it's only been 10 years in production, is Snow Crash.
I don't know about this.
So about 10 years ago, Sony acquired the rights for Snow Crash from Neil Stephenson, and it sat on a shelf. They didn't even pitch it. It never had a chance to be the light of day. And basically it went up on IMDb and was dead. So Amazon just acquired the rights, and they put showrunners on it. And I think they named a producer, and it's going to be a limited series on Amazon. So
cool.
Make it happen. Just
Yes.
I got to throw out one thing. Just going back, a minute when we were talking about a cast person knowing and not revealing, and you guys probably know this, so if you do, cut me off. But it's not superhero. But going to the Harry Potter world, you guys heard that. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. Snape, one of the best actors of all time, and I can't remember his name right now.
Alan
played
Rickman.
the villain in Doc.
Yes.
Alan Rickman. So he was given the complete final Harry Potter ending to all the books.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing
Before
that.
she had published everything, because he needed to know, and he knew that from the beginning, and he kept the whole thing secret.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, she told it to him over dinner, and she was like, "I'm going to tell you something really important," and he was like, "Oh," and then
what a class act! I mean,
they auctioned off his some of his scripts that he annotated with his acting notes.
Oh wow!
I don't know if anybody like released them, but like somebody won them through like paying tons of money.
Nice.
But like he had his notes and everything. He was so good.
If you want something that will just tug at your heartstrings, watch the documentary for Galaxy Quest.
Oh jeez, I love that movie.
Trish and I did a podcast for it, and the show when you look at it from how it was conceived and how it failed and how it came back and how it's now on the same par as the things it paid homage to, and then Tim Allen talking about playing opposite of Alan Rickman.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, just two people should not share a stage, and it's them.
Yeah.
And like the complete and utter reverie he has for Alan Rickman, just by the end of it, I was like just in tears.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, he was like a classical Shakespearean actor, and same thing as like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. And
oh, have you been watching Patrick Stewart reading Shakespeare sonnets?
I caught a little bit of it. Yeah, I haven't watched a lot, but yeah, hey, it's a good idea,
The first one I read was like number 10, and he goes, "You might have noticed that we're skipping number 9. Why? I don't like number 9. I can do what I want." And then he just starts reading. I was like, I love you. I literally, you are like the grandfather we all want.
Yeah, I love the fact that, he can still be playful, self-effacing, goof off, and that sort of thing.
And then, did you guys watch Picard?
I have not.
No, I have not. I have
despite how many ads pop up in my feed.
Must get CBS, Discovery, must watch.
Right. I know. I'm sorry. I've Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus. There's only so much time.
when it does a 5-day sale, get it and just binge.
Yeah.
Picard was amazing because he comes back as Captain Picard, and it's not the Picard you remember. He's fallen from grace. He's no longer relevant, but he doesn't understand that he's no longer relevant. And it's so nuanced that there's a scene where someone at Starfleet is literally just being like, dude, you're a nobody now, like back off. And it is so gut-wrenching when it happens that you're like, oh, my favorite Starfleet captain.
Yeah.
No.
But he was excellent in it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it wasn't for lack of respect for his acting chops and whatnot. But, yeah.
And I liked how different it was than the Picard that we, grew up with. That just made me happy.
Well, yeah, they do that with like Batman all the time, where it's like he's like 50 years older now. How has he become the cynical, grizzled man? And you're like, I want to know. I'm going to watch this, or I'm going to read and find out.
Right.
That's so why I watched Batman Beyond. I just wanted to watch an old Bruce Wayne.
Oh, geez, yeah. And then I love watching those with like the young, energetic character where it's like, who do you think you are? You have my life experience. And it's like, yeah, I love the conflict.
Did you guys see about Gaiman's Sandman and the voice cast for it?
I did, but I just kind of saw it fleeting. I saw the screenshot of the different actors.
My only experience with Gaiman has been in Marvel's 1602 series.
Oh yeah.
Which I really enjoyed, but I've never wanted to pick up Sandman for some reason. I don't know.
I have not read Sandman, but I do appreciate Gaiman. I actually one of my I've a couple of two boys and one girl. One of my sons really got into reading because of Gaiman's Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But of course, Stardust I referenced a minute ago. That's Gaiman. And did you guys see the? Maybe I need more coffee. My mind's blanking again today. The Amazon series that they did.
Good Omens.
With Gaiman. Good Omens. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Good Omens.
I watched it twice. I watched the whole series twice.
Oh, that was so fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to go back to it. The first episode hooked me. Absolutely. It just life got in the way, but the dialogue was so snappy.
Yeah.
Just the whole scene with where it's like the nunnery has burned down. It's like, don't you people keep records? And it was like, well, we did. Your minions burn them to the ground. It's like, this is just fantastic.
And the casting was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And the dry humor that came through on that, it was amazing.
Yeah. I love when his car's on fire and he just like wills it to stay together and all.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do a sprint for, let's do 105.
All right.
Cool.
See you guys in a bit.
Figure out what I'm going to type.
I can. Oh, Derek was asking about master classes. Have any of you looked into those?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I want to do them, but I haven't yet. I'm interested in Gaiman's one. I'm interested in What's the guy that does all the dialogue for
Gaiman's is great. I listened to for crying out loud, the Da Vinci Code guys.
Dan Brown.
Dan Brown. Dan Brown's was really good.
Because his is on like pacing, right?
His is on writing thrillers.
Okay.
Gaiman's was kind of like the overall process from like start to finish.
Right.
But his I would highly recommend because it's basically like his like college course level of teaching. So it's like very in depth, lots of examples, and he's just really good at speaking.
Yeah.
I listened to Norse mythology just because it was him reading his own book.
Because there's also James Patterson, Margaret Atwood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could totally spend just oodles of time on the master
even
class. When I do it, I'm going to get
cheesy
the package where you just get all of it.
Definitely do the subscription, even if it's like, I don't know if they do like a month or not. But even R.L. Stein's How to Write Horror for Kids, I learned so much about like simplified outlining where I'm like, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you've written like a book a month for years.
Right.
Do you find that you could like I looked at it and it looks extremely interesting. What's the time investment is I guess my only.
It's up to you really, because it's not so much like an interactive course where you're like expected to turn in work and everything. It's like you watch the video sections on your own time when you want. You download the PDF that you go through and you can do the assignments you want. But you can submit stuff for feedback, and there's like an online like community that comments to each other, but I don't usually use that too much.
I don't think you're going to get Gaiman giving you feedback on.
No,
hanging out.
Like that's not really the whole reason. I feel like that's how they pitched that thing at the beginning, because they only had a small handful of people, but it's more for like it gives you the interview. It gives you the outline at the beginning to say, here's what I'm going to talk about. Pick and choose. You can skip around if you want, but some of the authors are like, no, start from the beginning, watch all the way through. But one course could take you like a good week if you did like one section a day.
Okay. Because that's like, I listen to podcasts when I go on walks because, you only need to walk away from every podcast with maybe like one little snippet of good info. But this almost feels like I need to be at my desk. Like,
not really. They just uploaded audio only for if you don't want to watch the video.
Oh, okay.
So, and I think the longest video section that I watched was like 15 to 20 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay. So it gets broken down then.
Yeah, it's very like digestible.
Because that's like I really want to pay attention to the Brandon Sanderson stuff, but they're like an hour and some change, and I feel
I've gone through all of them every year, every class from each year that he's put out. I've gone through all of them.
Do you find that it's worth like sitting down and focusing?
I probably gain in terms of learning, at least in terms of learning what I might want to think about, from about 15% of it. But it's also kind of a motivational, puts me in the mood to write sort of thing. So sometimes I do that before I'm going to sit down and write, because, if I get distracted and watch a TV show that's maybe not in the genre, that doesn't have any great craft and just goofing off, then that doesn't really put me in the mood. But watching the Sanderson, I get about 10 or 15% of new ideas of like story structure. How he looks at world building, for example, is really detailed and gives you lots of ideas.
Maybe I'll try that, and if I can stick with that, then I'll go look at the master class.
Yeah, it'll be a good test to see.
Yeah,
because I'm currently teaching an MFA in creative writing, and the bonus of teaching it is I kind of get to take the course with the students. I just don't get feedback. So like the other day, last week we focused on young adult dialogue and simplifying for speed. And I started looking at my text and I was like, oh, some of my text gets bogged down with narrative. Maybe I should. So like that's been awesome.
Yeah.
Free courses.
Yeah, I think Sanderson probably teaches it still. Just A, good deed, because he's that kind of guy, and B, he probably gets, you know, insurance and, you know, maybe a tax break or something.
And just watching his community online, like the people that jump in on the conversation, like you have a cult following. And
oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Consider me 100% jealous.
Oh yes.
All right, I'm gonna hop into a sprint.
Okay.
Okay.
Time.
Okay.
Okay.
646.
I have to redo mine. I can't remember.
Let me scroll up and see. You guys are really sprinting, but you know, I'm using my imagination because I didn't use it ahead of time. So I got
figuring out in the moment.
Yeah. Well, I got like 498. That's not bad considering. I got my little building story Bible, like that I'm building on the fly as I go, that I have to kind of reference because I'm coming up with different characters and events and whatnot. And had to jump over there a couple of times.
I have to keep looking up buildings because I keep describing the same warehouse over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
Like, can the bad guys be in something other than a warehouse for once?
They always are, though.
Now they're on the pier.
Oh, there you go.
Because apparently all mobsters hang out at the pier.
Oh, yeah. They know some guys down by the docks.
I feel that I am writing a little too many stereotypes into this. I'm going to have to flesh it out later.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. I'm trying to go with a little bit of 4-color classic hero, but then a lot of wry, absurd, silly stuff. And so the more like callbacks to, oh, well, that's clearly the classic hero thing, or, you know, the classic villain thing, the better for what I'm doing.
My superheroes do exist in my world. Like Superman is on the radio.
Oh, okay. Like these superheroes exist.
Yeah. So she even mentioned is she's putting on her mask. She's like, well, maybe when I'm done with this, I'll reconsider adding a cape to my repertoire.
Oh yeah.
And in my other book, they're constantly asking if we're gonna save the day, should we be wearing spandex? Eventually, I'm going to have a superhero just wearing spandex because they love it.
Right.
It's just going to be an ongoing joke.
Just make them wear like, yoga pants or something. They'll blend in nowadays.
My hero in the last story would have probably been perfectly okay saving the world in sweatpants.
Yeah. That's funny.
All the heroes in like flesh-colored tights. No, they're like, go home, change.
I mean, that would be a pretty unnerving battle right there.
Yeah.
You want some media attention? Go look like you're naked.
Right.
Viewer discretion advised.
That would be a really fun cover to try and get through on advertising.
Oh boy,
yeah.
No.
Don't worry, there's no nipples.
That's all. That's the big deal.
Right.
That would actually be my tagline. Everything but the nipples. Oh my god. I kind of like being able to poke fun at the genre from within the genre.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I'm not gonna go on about my story, but just to give you an idea on that. So my guy doesn't have powers yet, without getting into the why and all that. And there are supers, and he works for the company that has the supers. And he works in the mailroom right now. But he's like a huge fan of particularly this one guy. So although he wears his pant legs on the outside of the boots, but he wears a replica of one of the superheroes' hero boots that he bought at the company gift shop. So I don't know. I'm just having fun with it.
I like injecting the humor in some of my stuff. My first book was very serious for superhero genre, and then I was like, you know what? This needs to be lightened up a little bit because just makes it more enjoyable and entertaining.
Yeah,
I love self-conscious characters that are like, "Is this for real?" Like in the middle of a battle.
Is very George R.R. Martin level, like
doom
and gloom.
I want to do a really dark one, but it might be like a career killer, because I want to do a dark one where you've got a guy that gets superpowers, like really amazing superpowers, and he starts taking out all of the people in the world that are doing some bad stuff, but it never hits the media, and it's like all thrown out there, and he just literally takes them down, like, kills them basically. So it's going to be like a Brightburn in darkness, but he's actually the good guy. He just steps over the line in terms of being judge, jury, and executioner. This is not what I'm writing, but that would be interesting, like as a social commentary. All these things that everybody just gets away with and everybody knows and ignores because they don't want the paradigm shift on a daily basis. And then they just start disappearing.
In my writing yesterday, my heroine kills Hitler.
Oh wow! Well, good job. That solves a lot of problems.
It's 1944 in the book, and she has a vision of Hitler killing himself just as normal, and it's the first time that her powers have let her see variations of a future, and so she's struggled throughout the whole series that everything that she sees in the future is destined to happen. So she almost doesn't want to see the future most of the time because she doesn't want to know the outcomes. And so this is the first time that she sees different versions, and she's actually able to go from one of the outcomes and backpedal the variations that lead to an early death. So I had to do way too much research on Eva Braun yesterday. But ultimately, it's Eva Braun who kills him. It's just she sets everything in motion.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how much research you do writing in a period, an historical period. So I just like to just make stuff up.
So when I was, my undergrad is in graphic design, and my thesis project was doing research on German Placastills, so they're all their propaganda posters.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot about that, but I don't know the American side because I didn't care about it at the time. So definitely like the rolling the bandages and knitting the socks to send to troops gets brought up. The soup kitchens get brought up. Some of the wartime posters get brought up, but for the most part, it's really downplayed. And so I'm going to have to, during my revision, I'm going to have to really make sure to pull in the flavor of World War II. So I'm going to watch some more documentaries about New York during World War II. Because it's almost an afterthought, and I'll admit that right now.
Right.
But I know.
Well, there's a balance there, a callback to our chat before the last writing session. In Brandon Sanderson's world building, at least one of the years that he put the class out, he talks about his iceberg concept, which you guys have probably heard, where all this stuff about your world and the character's backstory and all that, but you really just need to seed a few little things that let the reader know, hey, he thought about that aspect, like he's thought about the economic system or whatever it is you want to include, and then you don't have to give all the details. So maybe with the WW2 stuff, you can throw in some of those elements that you did, and people will go, okay, I'm feeling the period a little bit now.
Yeah, I think there's some things that I didn't think about at the time, like the character goes into a store to buy clothes, and so she tries on a shirt. That's not how clothes worked in the 40s. Like everything was tailor-made. And so like I just need to almost fact check what I put in.
Yeah, get the anachronisms out. And yeah.
But like, I know the language well enough that it gets dropped here and there, so it doesn't sound like I'm, reading from a Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
Civil rights gets brought up, and my character, I can get around a lot of the period piece for her because she's seen the future. She knows women's lib is coming. She knows that civil rights are going to happen. And so she's already like 1 foot into the future. And like, because there's a Japanese character and a black character, and she refers to them as what we refer to them now, whereas everyone else refers to them as playing.
Yeah.
So
you could watch the John Belushi movie 1942.
What is that?
Seen that? There's a John Belushi movie 1942.
I feel like I had to watch that for a class.
Yeah. It's probably not historically accurate.
And I think for entertainment purposes, does it have to be?
No.
If you write a historical fiction, historical romance, but in case, maybe not.
Yeah, it depends on how serious your story is.
Yeah.
If it's like alternate history, then it doesn't really matter so much.
Yeah. Look at the first Captain America film, though. I mean, they probably went a little more overboard because they had to do set design, costume design, and all that. But it was just the backdrop. They weren't really harping on all the historical elements. They made a few references, and that was enough.
It's just meant to evoke the feeling of the time period.
And this, so in this series, Hitler is going to die a year early, and that's going to be the official alternate history from here on out, which allows a cascade of.
So what happened to all the Nazis that went to Antarctica?
Well, so I think I want to have my next series wind up in Russia, and so now I'm thinking, well, if the Red Soldiers didn't go clear out Germany, what? Oh God! Now I have to think about this. I'm just gonna make it up.
Causing yourself problems. Yeah.
I'm making that Bible a little too thick to remember at this point.
Yeah. Well, at least I learned to use a series Bible. The first book I wrote, I didn't use one, and you get lost about halfway through.
So I actually turned my Bible into my website. So if you go to the Children of Nostradamus website, I was thinking about how in Dungeons and Dragons, you have like the player's handbook. So I started treating my website like it was going to be for an RPG. So it shows the factions, it shows this. And then there's a section that even shows timelines. And you can filter out the timelines. And so my readers essentially get to see the Bible as they choose.
Nice.
So I decided if I'm going to write a Bible, I might as well use it as a marketing tool.
Use that. Yeah, I have a little bit on one of my series on my website. Like I have a timeline, but it's not super extensive. And I have a little bit of encyclopedic entry of characters and events in the one universe, but nothing too elaborate. I'm going to take a look at your site and see what you did. Did you use Timeline like a plugin or script, or did you just...
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to see which one you used.
I can tell you which ones I used.
Yeah, I'll look at it later and message you.
But I write a serial on there, which I was really apprehensive about because, who cares, to be honest? Like, I have like 3 super fans that read it every time I release. But I was like, well, that's a side project that I can write pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then when I get to a comfortable endpoint, ta-da, a novel.
Right. Yeah, I know a guy who's writing a whole novel on Instagram posts.
Wow.
One a day. Whatever fits on his Instagram post picture, one a day. Crazy. He's been doing it for months.
Is he finding it difficult to stay consistent with it?
I think he's done it every day.
Okay.
So, yeah. Maybe he's, got a bunch written and he's just doling it out that way. But
I just started playing with the idea of taking my serial, because I already have like 40 something entries, and uploading them up onto Wattpad as well. I already have the material. It's not like it's taking 5 minutes of my day. I'm curious if I'm going to do like 12 and see if I get even a single read.
Yeah. I played with Wattpad a long time ago, and I didn't have any traction on it with what I was writing at the time, but I've seen, it's kind of hit and miss, and it probably varies on genre and how, maybe if you're more socially interactive on there and things like that. Some people, it just takes off gangbusters.
Yeah, and it's very big for fan fictions.
Yeah.
Certain properties have like crazy amounts of exposure, but it's like existing world that you can never do unless you change all the names.
Yeah. And Wattpad, I think, is publishing now.
Yeah.
Some people got picked up because of how popular their stuff was on there.
And then one of their top novels got turned into a Netflix show.
Wow.
And the producer is Wattpad. Because I just,
Weird.
When I went to go upload my story, if you upload like all the kind of the genre, like basically your KDP behind the screen stuff, you can be, Wattpad will look at your stuff and put it in for promotion opportunities, which, I write dystopian sci-fi superhero. I don't have high hopes, but
hey, there's shows out there like that. We got so many media producers now, so you never know.
I did go look at Netflix because I was like, I'm getting tired of certain Netflix shows popping up, and I'm like, did you read my book? Because this is getting a little close.
That happens.
Yeah,
Nothing you can do about it.
There was my first novel I ever wrote, and it got shelved because it went off the rails. The CW put out a show that was almost verbatim my idea.
Yeah.
Man, if I had just pitched it.
Right.
So close.
Yeah, but you gotta know people.
Well, you know what I was going to do this year before the pandemic apocalypse? And it's probably good. Well, I don't want to say it's good that it happened. It worked out for my schedule that it's postponed. I was going to go to the Austin, basically film festival, and they have open pitching there with some pretty big studio people. So you can get stuff picked up there fairly easily. I mean, I don't want to say fairly easily, a lot easier than you can trying to go through the LA Hollywood route.
I have so eventually I've been mulling this over for 5-6 years. Kind of a fantasy merged into real world dystopian, it's basically Lord of the Rings meets Mad Max. And so I write short stories for horror anthologies out of it. And it's given me a chance to kind of figure out what I want, how dark do I want it to go. And some of them would be perfect for like small film festival because it's 3-4 characters. It just needs a good set location and decent actors. Like the budget would be really low.
Yeah, that's the thing when you're pitching as a new person, because I've been kind of following some people that actually have gotten a screenplay or two done, and chatting with them on Facebook. And yeah, go in with the low budget, high concept, low budget, easily produced as a start.
I remember, like, did you guys see Babadook?
Yes.
It wasn't that kid. I just wanted to punch the kid throughout the whole movie.
I wanted the kid to die so badly throughout the entire movie.
It made me mad. But it's really about this kid's nightmare coming to life. And you see eyes in a shadow, you see, typical horror creepiness, but it was mostly an atmosphere film. And the whole thing is essentially 2 actors in a house. It probably took, a couple $1,000s outside of, salaries to make. But it wound up being like a horror genre #1 for almost the whole year.
Wow.
And I was like, and that kind of inspired me to write these super stripped down horror books. So I want to pitch them.
Yeah.
I want to make a fool of myself. I'm ready for it.
Blumhouse, you want more content. Come on now.
But all of them, because I looked at Blumhouse as well, like Netflix, you have to have a very specific agent for. And am I going to spend all that time getting an agent for
right. Well, that's why I think like the Austin Film Festival, those festivals are a good option because, if you go down and you get to the finals in the pitch round, then you've got people sitting around who are agents and producers and so on, who, if they want to snatch it up, at least, as an option, then those connections can be made very quickly with an agent and so on.
And I feel as authors, like, we're no shortage of, oh, you don't like that idea? Well, here's another one for you.
Yeah.
I'll sit in a room and pitch you all day long. Like,
yeah. Oh, speaking of horror and film and pitching, I just listened to I think it's the most recent Mark Dawson self-publishing formula podcast, self-publishing show. And it is an interview with Cunnings, who's had 2 films made in the horror genre and is a pretty successful indie horror writer. Let's pull up his full name here. But that might be worth listening to because he does talk about the film side for about 15-20% of the episode. Pulling it up.
I have all of the podcasts. I'm not driving anywhere, so I don't listen to them.
They're just updating. Like my tablet, when I open the podcast app, it's like scroll. Then it gives me the little spinny wheel for like 2 minutes where it's like gathering latest, and I'm like, yeah.
It on the Six Figure Authors, Jeff Haskell's wife, Rebecca, is on there for book covers. So I was like, ooh, I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I wonder if it was the Six Figures podcast that I'm thinking of, because I'm looking at Dawson's and I don't see it on there.
Yeah, it's Six Figure Authors with Michael Brent Collins.
Yes, that's it. Yes, that was a really good episode.
That is my. Sometimes when their guests are on, the audio quality is just lower, and so I'm just like, click, delete.
Yeah.
I actually like it when they just sit around and babble their own experiences a lot.
I like that too. I mean, Lindsay, she's making, I don't know if I want to say it on how much she talks about it, but she does really well.
So
and Joe's been doing consistently. What's that?
At the first Summer Book Show Summit, I'm sitting at a table and there's Chris Fox, Lindsay Buroker, Jay Thorne and Zach Bohannon.
Oh my gosh. It's like a dream team.
Like, there's just this group of people. Oh, and Jamie Albright, who at the time, Jamie Albright was poor. And we're all just sitting there and everyone is talking about their numbers. And they're like, oh yeah, and Lindsay's like, yeah, I had my first $100,000 month.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You're what? Like, and then
it is possible.
Like, oh yeah, if I did out, I'm probably in the high 6 figures, but I haven't paid attention to my audiobook, so who knows?
Right. Yeah, she's at the point, particularly with how she lives her life, that she doesn't really have to worry about the monthly paycheck.
Yeah, and then it came around to Jamie Albright and I. And Jamie Albright's like, I haven't finished a novel yet.
Oh my gosh, step 1.
Yeah, so next year, Jamie Albright speaks at Summer Book Show, and she's like, here's how I got my first $60,000 with one novel. Damn it.
Oh my gosh. So much watching the market and like figuring out what is big, and then it's got to line up with what you're personally interested in. And sometimes it's like not that hard, but like I can't go and write werewolf erotica, even if it is the hot seller. I will never be able to do that. It'll come across so horrible.
I already write about hairy men having sex, so that's not a party. I could work in a full moon.
Yeah.
Right.
It's totally. It is possible. It does take a lot of work, though. Like,
well, and Jamie Albright was really cool because the next year she came back and she presented everything that she did up to the day of release, and she didn't talk a single thing about afterwards. And her pregame was, I mean, she earned her money.
Yeah.
She maxed out like her like monthly allowance of what she could spend on books very strategically. And I mean, hats off to her. It was impressive.
Yeah, I've seen some others that have had, like Izzy Shows, however she says her name. I think right now she kind of is coming out of a long slump due to some other stuff. But when she came out, Urban Fantasy, it took off like gangbusters. And I looked because I had seen her on K-boards when I used to be on there more before, like right around the beginning of her launch. And so I'd been following her quite a bit. And she had like a year-long pregame before her first book came out. She was doing the social, and she's got, a good personality for it, really got a big following that way, and it helps. My pregame's not been there.
No. I am trying to improve my pregame, but I find it's already a struggle to get the covers done, get the editing done, revise with the edits, and just get that together. And if I get that together, like my last book launch, I uploaded the final book like with minutes to spare.
Wow.
And that was all I could handle, like just get it out there. So I had like 148 step launch plan, and every bit of it went according to plan other than that. And even that was like, I watched the needle go slight tip and then back. How big are your mailing lists? I'm just kind of curious.
Not huge. Not huge at all. About 900, but okay. I don't do freebie giveaways. I did at the very beginning, but I've kind of culled a lot of that out. And so now it's just back matter and website.
I do.
Also don't have a lead magnet right now.
I just did a lead magnet when the quarantine started. I was going through one of Mal's books, and I was like, oh, this seems obvious. Why don't I have this yet? Let me just write it. So I haven't really promoted it, but that my next 3 months, all I'm doing are newsletter swaps to build mailing list, not for sales. And then that's the only, I give away a couple short stories that I just have, but they're not in my superhero universe. So it's just like, oh, if you're into dark stuff, I have this. If you're into fun stuff, I have this.
I definitely want to build my mailing list. I definitely want to get a reader magnet again. All these things, but writing the book that has to come out is always the first thing I need to do. And so I have a long list of other things in a perfect world that eventually I will get the whole package together. But I figure right now I'm still in my mind working on my craft and building a backlist, completing some series so I can get better ROI on my ads, that sort of thing, which right now I'm not even running ads. So I have in the past, but.
And you're doing this as full time right now.
Yeah.
So that's quarantine has been good in the fact that my day job, I mean, for me, quarantine has been amazing. I feel bad for horrible in the world, but I'm basically a full-time author right now. And I have a part-time teaching job that pays a full-time salary. So
well, I'm a full-time author that only occasionally gets full-time money. but I kind of set myself up from my previous years to be in a position where I can do this. I mean, I'm not like loaded or anything, but I'm getting by. And so I'm just playing a little bit longer game, you know, incrementally getting up there.
Yeah, because I feel like like my strategy right now is was for this year specifically was either to write faster and more and just to finish more, or to just continue on at my pace and just save the books until I have a buffer. So it's not like I release book 1 in whatever series or book 2 in whatever series and then have nothing for like 7 months while I'm like toiling away at night.
Yeah, and I've done that. That's a huge waste.
It's hard. So I'm like, I would much rather just either save everything to do rapid, or just force myself to type more and stop worrying so much about the fine details until I have like the base to mold into whatever.
Yeah.
Franklin, if you had your ideal situation, would you go full-time writing?
I'm the type of person I've always had like at least 2 jobs because I'm so afraid of one of them just going away. So, and even during college, I was like that. So probably not. I mean, I would love to devote way more time to just like, if I could type for 8 hours a day and not be interrupted, I would get done so much more. But like, I think I can still get done a good amount of work if I spend like 3 hours a day, like at the beginning and end of the day, and just like force my creative brain to get into flow easier.
Yeah. I wrote my first book getting up at 2 a.m. and writing until 7.
I mean,
it's a quiet time to do it.
Yeah. 8 months.
Jim Kukril's concept of the pain point was the eye opener for me. How bad do you want it, and are you willing to work at it?
Yeah.
And last year, my number one goal was to reacquire my rights. So I wrestled those back. And then my goal this year is a new number 1, get that series out. And then I'll have an okay backlist that I can manipulate in different ways.
Yeah.
I think if I was given my ideal situation, it would be full-time writing and my college position, because that's online and I get to do it when I want.
Right.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's nice to have, like part of the reason why I haven't like tried so much to be like full-time writing or anything like creative is just like my brain likes the constant, like every 2 weeks you'll get the paycheck. And I know there are people that are able to be like, screw that, I don't need it. But like I've tried before when like work has been slow and I've been laid off for a few months. Like I've tried to do the just sit and write, and my brain is just like, oh no, like you're gonna have to part with your like emergency fund. So it's like it doesn't work out. So it's better for me to just like do something on the side as well as writing.
When quarantine happened, I thought, okay, for the first month, my day job didn't know what to do. So it was just sit tight. We're figuring out, information. And so I was like, oh, okay, it's a chance for me to pretend I'm a full-time writer. And somewhere in my head, I thought, well, I work 6 hours a day and then 2 hours commuting each day. So 8 hours total. I can dedicate 8 hours to writing. That's not my reality.
Doesn't work out. Yeah.
No, well, have you ever read, I know he's kind of like controversial in the writing world, but Dean Wesley Smith?
Oh, yeah.
I've read a lot of his blog, and he talks a lot about his daily routine and how it changes and how he gets done what he gets done. And it's never like I sat down and I didn't get up for like 5 hours. It's like I typed for 25 minutes for a sprint, got up, had some food, came back, did another 25 minutes, went out for half an hour, took a walk, came back and did 25 minutes. And I'm like, and you still did, even with breaks, like 10,000 words a day.
Yeah.
And I feel like the breaks is the part that like refreshes your imagination, just because there comes a point where you like dry up Or at least I know I do, where I'm like, even though I have the time and I can keep going, my brain is like, wow, I burned through all the things that I was going to do. And now you just have to like distract yourself or like go read something random and then it comes to you again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, refill the well, they say.
Yeah,
I take breaks and either go walk outside. There's a field behind my house, or go hiking or whatever. Watch a show, and then try to get back in.
Yesterday, so when I first started writing to write, it would be like a 5,000 day, but then I would go 4 days without writing because, I did enough. I'm burned out. I need to. So this has definitely been the longest. Since quarantine started, I went 2 months without a day off of consistent writing, and then took 2 days off and then went right back to it. I literally yesterday crossed over. I've written more this year than I wrote all of last year. So like seeing all those little benchmarks of, consistency still pays off. I haven't written a book this year.
That's something I'm trying to focus on more, because I've had binge sessions. Like my biggest writing day ever was 13,000 words one day. But then I took several days after that before I wanted to sit down again. And it's better to just do like, a low few thousand at most, and then pause.
Yeah, save the binge for like the final day of your book that you're working on. That's how it usually happens.
The thing I'm having trouble with is like, I need to get book 1 ready to go to an editor, and I find it difficult to write in book 3 if I'm editing book 1. Like,
you shouldn't have to have anything like earth-shattering in your edits. Like if your story is like the bones of your story is what it is, like I feel like it shouldn't be too fundamental of a change. Like you shouldn't be getting like, this plot point doesn't work, rewrite this plot point. Like that, to me, that would be like so drastic. Like I could never go through that and write a series.
I can say that for the most part, my writing is fairly clean. My book 2, I got 40,000 words into it, and I just realized it was so bad I had to trash the whole thing. Otherwise, I would have spent 3 months editing it to get it to where 3 weeks of writing fixed it. So most of my edits are more like, so I wrote a 60,000 word book 1, and I want to get to 70,000 words. So where, I didn't put in enough of the love interest. That's where I'm going to do my beefing up. So I think I can turn it around fairly well, but I think I need to be writing in a different tone than what I'm editing. So this might be a time for a one-off, I guess.
Yeah. Well, since I do several genres, then I can a little bit hop between, if I'm doing a superhero versus a sci-fi, then it's different headspace. But yeah, working on 2 books in the same some fashion, even if it's editing while writing, that would be a little difficult.
And maybe this is where that superhero romance will kick in and be the palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Simple and sweet.
Yeah, just keep a file of randomness that you do when you get stuck. And then I usually throw everything like that into like a weird like temp ideas, and they're not like flesh out or finished, but I'll just be like, you know what, today I'm stuck on my chapter, and I'll just type like a random nonsense story, and then it usually pulls me out of being stuck.
Yeah,
because it gets your like creative brain working again, because it's not focused on like the problem in your other book, so it gives it like a chance to figure it out for you, like subconsciously usually.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of Scrivener files in my folder for those that are just like, here's 3 paragraphs on this book I'm going to write eventually, and here's another cool idea.
And just remember, like, nobody will see your project until you publish it. So, like, if you have to jump ahead and start in the middle of a scene somewhere way in the future of your manuscript, just do it and then swing back and fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
I remember when I started this, my mom asked, well, you know, you want to be a writer and you've got a couple books out, but what if you run out of ideas? And I was like, whoa, that is the one thing I don't need to worry about.
Yeah. Exactly.
Have you guys seen Neil Gaiman? He's on stage at some thing where it's just somebody interviewing. Oh, actually, he's there with his wife. And somebody in the audience asks him where he gets his ideas from. You can find it on YouTube.
I feel like I have
It's one of my favorite things in the world, is his response to that question. It's just brilliant. I don't want to ruin it for you, but he goes into a little story. First thing he says is, what you've actually done there is ask the question of writers that must not be asked. And then he talks about how writers are awful to people that do that. And he goes into a story that ends up being a chair turning into a werewolf going through the snow. And it's brilliant. You have to watch it.
So good. Ideas come from everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like you sit in a blank room and it just comes to you. It's like the act of going out and living your life is what fuels your creative side.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments in my novels are pretty much plucked from reality. And you know, those, like, in college, those were the drunken conversations at night when you were like, has anyone ever thought about this? Well, I used to write them down, and some of them, my favorite idea, and this is going to be a novel at some point, is where does Cobra Commander get henchmen from? Like, what is the application process to be a henchman?
Well, Villain Pub. Have you seen that on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's it was kind of funny because in Soon I Will Be Invincible, the main character is a villain, and he goes to the pub where all the villains hang out, and, you know, he's looking for a sidekick as he goes shopping in the pub.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I'm gonna hop in for one more sprint, and then I have to go get some exercise because I've been sitting here forever.
Okay. I'll do the sprint, and then if you're around, we'll do this. If not, you're hosting, actually, aren't you?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, I can't transfer the host on this.
Yeah, that's fine. One sprint, and we'll call it a day, and I'll keep writing.
And then tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern
time. Yeah, unless something comes up, I will be there for that. I'm going to try to catch all the panels this week.
I am
me as well.
Super stoked for. Franklin's in this one tonight.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
cool.
I looked over the questions to be like, I got to make sure I'm ready for this.
She's so much better at this. I haven't sent out my questions yet.
So are you guys
both questions?
Are the panelists going to have visibility on the YouTube comments live?
Yep. So like
I'll try to come up with something really hard for you.
Oh boy.
If you go to the comments on the right-hand side, you can see where, like, Derek's been posting comments.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in the chat room chatting with people to keep the comments going. In our heads, this should be a flawless exercise. We'll see.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well, one more session, and then I'll see you guys tonight.
Coolness.
And done.
Whoa.
$406. I'll call it good.
I did 581.
Oh, that's a slow one for you.
363, even slower. But I created Sly Jimmy, so he's a side character, not important.
I'm about to stab a mobster in the neck.
Oh, nice. What are you doing? What's going on in your world? Just a soundbite of what just happened in your words.
Franklin?
Oh, sorry, I should say, yeah.
For me, yeah. I'm going full on with the future world, and I'm tying it back into my original trilogy a little bit. But snapshot is I've got my main character who is a dork. It's partially inspired by current day events where he is reaching out to his crush on video chat for the first time, who he's never spoken to see if she will chat him back. And surprisingly, she does.
Nice. Does he have an awesome background or something that he put up, to impress her?
No, he didn't think that far ahead. So, nice. Yeah.
It's the new version of peacocking is your green screen background.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, my guy's in the mailroom. He got there late, which is he never does because he always wants to be one of the guys that runs the mail cart upstairs in the supers building so he can get FaceTime with some supers. And one in particular, who's this girl that he's crushing on, who's like kind of high up in the company. And he knows Sly Jimmy's on his way upstairs with the cart and is going to get to see her instead. So he's in a panic and he's about to race up after him, which is going to go completely wrong.
I like that you built in a fanboy for your story. I feel that superhero fans.
He grows, there's character arc, but yeah, he's fanboy of the main hero for the company, and he's fanboy of this girl because he's crushing on her, and he's just down in the mailroom, But yeah, he's going to make some moves.
Nice.
Well, enjoy your exercise, Jeremy, whatever that entails.
Yeah, I'm going to go take a quick walk, and then Trish is going to call me because she just writes, I have an opportunity.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
She's probably going to have Neil Gaiman on the other line at the same time.
Yeah. I feel after getting into the story bundle, like I'm currently waiting on a BookBub, and it's kind of like when you buy a lotto ticket, like you already imagine all the stuff you bought.
Right.
And I'm already thinking, my luck's been so good. Of course I have this BookBub. So what am I going to do with all that money?
Yeah. So are you guys wide?
No.
I'm not.
I tried. A BookBub and you're not wide. That's nice. But you have quite a few in your series, right?
Yeah. So I've had a BookBub. I haven't actually gotten it yet. I'm just now assuming I've got it. But
you haven't actually gotten it.
No.
Okay.
I'm just acting like I do.
Impressed because it's harder to get when you're exclusive.
So I looked at the BookBubs in the last 2 weeks, and more than half of them have been KU. And I'm only guessing that it's because of quarantine. I don't know what is causing it.
Yeah.
But,
interesting.
I only went wide when I was with my publisher to get a BookBub, and I landed it the first month I was wide.
Was that when you broke into the top 100?
Yeah, I was number 63 in all of Amazon for an hour.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I have a 212 in all of Amazon, but that was fleeting.
Yeah.
It's like the algorithm finds you, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is, I remember a few years back, BookBub people talking about how they're basically kind of split between trad and indie on their BookBub at whatever percentage it was, and who knows what it is now. But the only theory I can put forth is maybe more trad people are out of the office because of quarantine, and their submissions are down because they're not as nimble as we are, and so they're taking more indies, which opens up.
I would say in the last couple weeks, BookBub has been 75% indie, which, you know, yay for us.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should start submitting.
But I have a Franklin Tyler that's in the Discord chat with us. Got a BookBub last month, and he already got his second BookBub.
Oh wow! I should totally do that. I used to have a calendar, and I submitted every time consistently, just because it's not that hard.
So I do book 1, 99 cents, book 1 free, prequel 99 cents, prequel free, and now I'm going to add box set 99 cent. Yeah. I can't do the box set free because I only have one possible book on top of that. Once I get another series out, it would be worth it.
Yeah.
But I want more book ones. So literally every day, as soon as I get rejected from one, I go right in for the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could submit for international, and you can submit for US only, I think. So that's.
I got an international BookBub, and it was
US only.
It was 3 months after my US BookBub, but I got it with I literally had that BookBub submitted again, and I got in again, but just international. And I broke even for what I put into it, but I was with a publisher who took 60% of my royalty.
Ouch.
No.
So, but they paid for half of it. So it wound up being about a break even, but I did move, you know.
Yeah, it's good for visibility if it's a break even, but still, giving away 60% to somebody stinks.
Well, and that was why they screwed it up. They forgot to put my book in Kobo to 99 cents, so BookBub kicked me out of the Kobo part.
Oh.
And I got, you know, a letter saying, you know, if we keep this up, and my publisher was like, oh, we didn't know how to reduce our price on Kobo. Okay, I want my rights back.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I'm neurotic type A. Like, I can't handle when other people don't do their jobs.
Yeah.
So, but give me a damn BookBub. I need more eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my perspective is to get all these books written, just kind of muddling, just kind of getting by for a while, and then I'm going to do all my ads, all my BookBubs, everything, and it's all going to hit, and I'll be good.
Yeah, there is a lot of power in having like a good backlist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's why I mean, under my own name, I have 8 books, but I have 12 assets I guess I could access, which isn't bad, but I want 20 books on my backlist.
Yeah, yeah.
And then even a small trickle, you know, will add up.
Right. Yes, and all those box sets you can make when you get more books out, that's good. So I've got one box set right now, and I've got the means to do another, but it's a newly completed trilogy, and so I'm going to wait a while.
Yeah, I waited 4 months before I did it.
Yeah.
And it's gotten some sales. I mean, it's making up the majority of this month's income, but you know, I would much prefer book 1 to sell, because if the ebook sells, I make twice as much money.
Yeah.
And I make even more money on page reads through my series. So no one tells you when you're a writer that you're going to do math all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind. I like all the lists and details. All right. Well, enjoy your walk. And Franklin, I'm not sure what you're doing, but enjoy it, whatever it is.
I'll probably try to go for a walk too, because it's finally nice out.
All right. I think I'll do the same, actually.
And I'll be back again noon tomorrow, and hopefully see you guys tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
See you all tonight.
Okay. I'll see you guys later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.